Hello everyone. Now let's start with a very interesting chapter, and that is demand and recovery. Now in this first two sections are the major ones, section 73 and 74, which talk about demand. That is, if your tax has been short paid, not paid, short levied, not levied, or erroneously refunded, how the tax will be recovered by the government. So two sections are there. 73 is the first one, which deals with short levy, non-levy because of error or omission case, and 74 deals with fraud cases. Okay, so mostly they will be on the similar lines, but the time limits and all will be different. Okay, so these two sections are very important, which you have to remember at all times. Questions may come on these two. And then there are further sections for recovery of tax by different modes. Like if you don't pay the tax, then how the tax will be recovered from you by selling off your assets, selling off your goods, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's see. So that's why this chapter is very interesting and important also. So we'll start with 73. Determination of tax not paid, short paid, or erroneously refunded, or input tax credit wrongly availed or utilized for any reason other than fraud or any willful misstatement or suppression of tax. So this section deals with non-payment of tax or short payment of tax or erroneous refund or input tax credit wrongly taken or utilized by error omission case. Therefore, it is given by any reason other than fraud. So, other than fraud is normal mistake, error omission. So, normal mistakes are called as error omission cases. So, they are dealt with by section 73, and fraud cases will be taken by 74. Okay. So, let's see. Where it appears to the proper officer that any tax has not been paid or short paid. Not been paid means completely not paid. Short paid means it should have been paid at 18%, but you have paid at 9% only. Okay, so short paid. Or erroneously refunded. Erroneously refunded means that you have claimed a refund in the past. We have seen the refund chapter. So you have claimed some refund. After giving the refund, the officer finds that, oh, the refund should not have been given. The refund should not have been given in the first place. How we have given the refund? So he'll say, oh, call back the refund. So they will recover the refund if it is erroneously given. Or where the input tax credit has been wrongly availed or utilized. Availed and utilized. Okay. For any reason other than the reason of fraud, willful misstatement, or suppression of facts to evade tax. Okay, so you have not done it intentionally. What it means to say is, you have not done it intentionally, but it has happened. Then he shall serve a notice. Who? He means who? The officer will serve a notice. Notice means show cause notice. SCN. It is a show cause notice on the person chargeable with tax which has not been so paid, or which has been short paid, or to whom the refund was erroneously been made, or who has wrongly availed or utilized the input tax credit, requiring him to show cause. See, hence it is called as show cause notice. Require him to show cause as to why he should not pay the amount specified in the notice. Very important point. When the notice is given, the amount has to be specified in the notice itself, that what is the amount which has been short paid or not paid or erroneously refunded or the wrong ITC. The amount is required to be mentioned. This amount is very important. Unless the amount is mentioned, the show cause notice is invalid. So if the officer feels that you have short paid 90,000 rupees, so he will mention there that why you should not pay 90,000. Why you should not pay 10 lakhs, why you should not pay 20 lakhs. So that amount is to be quantified. That's very important, okay, in the show cause notice. Along with interest payable. So why you should not pay the tax? Along with interest payable under section 50. and a penalty leviable under the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder. So since you have not paid the tax, a penalty will also be levied. So why you should not pay the tax amount plus interest plus penalty. Then the proper officer shall issue the notice under subsection 1 at least 3 months prior to the time limit specified under subsection 10 for issuance of order. So the procedure is, first they will issue the show cause notice, then the whole proceedings will continue, the investigation and everything will continue, and then the order has to be passed. So order is under subsection 10, which we'll see in due course of time. We are right now on subsection 2. So we'll reach subsection 10, we'll see what is the time limit for passing the order. Now the important point is that whatever is that time limit for passing the order, the show cause notice has to be given at least 3 months prior. At least 3 months prior. Okay? At least 3 months prior it has to be given. Because 3 months are required for the investigation process to continue now. Otherwise it may happen that show cause notice is given today and tomorrow is the date of the order. How can it be done? How can the whole investigation be completed within 1 day's time? So they need at least 3 months. 3 months gap between the show cause notice and the order. Then where a notice has been issued for any period under subsection 1, the proper officer may serve a statement, underline statement, containing the details of tax not paid or short paid or erroneously refunded or input tax credit wrongly availed or utilized for such periods other than, underline, other than those covered under subsection 1 on the person chargeable with tax. Now what does this mean? This is an important point. What it means is that if suppose there was a short payment in the month of January and February that has come to the notice of the officer. So he gives you a notice that look, for the month of January and February your tax is less paid because of this reason. Whatever the reason may be, he will assess the reason and tell us, give us a notice that your tax has been short paid for the month of January and February by this amount. Okay, so notice has come. Now notice is pending. When the notice is pending, means it is yet to be finalized, he finds that we have short paid in the month of March also or April also. So does he have to issue a second notice for that? Will he have to issue another notice? One notice is already pending, and during the course of this notice period, during the course of the proceedings, you can say, during the course of proceedings, he finds out that there is a short levy, means short payment for some other period also. So what subsection 3 says, that no separate notice is required. The officer can issue a statement. Statement is different, notice is different. So he is allowed to just issue a statement, and that statement will be covering that other period. Okay, that other period. And now the notice period plus the statement period, both will be dealt with together in this proceeding and finalized together. Okay, so that's how it is done. So a statement can be issued. Then 4 continues the point. It says that the service of such statement shall be deemed to be service of notice. So it will have the same status as a notice. Though it is a statement, but it will have the same status, same legal status as of a notice on such person, subject to the condition that the grounds, now this is important condition, the grounds relied upon for such tax periods other than covered by the original notice are the same as are mentioned in the earlier notice. Now this is important point. Statement can be issued for the other period only if the ground means the cause of the short payment, the reason of short payment, why you had short paid there, because of some reason, and the same reason continues for the other period as well. The ground is the same. Hence, it can be taken up in this notice by way of issue of a statement. Okay, so we can issue a statement only if the grounds are the same. But if the grounds are different, then a separate notice has to be issued under subsection 1. So then first notice will cover these 2 months and the second notice will cover the other period. Okay, then both proceedings will continue separately if the grounds are different. But if the grounds are same, then it can be covered by issuing a statement. Understood the point? Very good. Then subsection 5 says the person chargeable with tax may. Now what the person will do? May before, underline before service of notice under subsection 1, or as the case may be the statement under subsection 3, pay the amount of tax along with interest, interest underline, interest payable under section 50, that is 18% per annum, on the basis of his own ascertainment of such tax or the tax as ascertained by the officer, and inform the proper officer in writing of such payment. Now what this means is, this is called a surrender. Now there are two things, arrest or surrender. In criminal law, I'm just giving an example right now, okay, a different example, that you have done a fraud, you have done you have stolen some money from somebody. So now there are two ways. You can go and surrender yourself, that look, I made a mistake, I stole your money, please take it back. Or he may catch you. Either you go or he may catch you. Na? So same thing applies here. So this is a case where officer has not yet come to know, he doesn't have knowledge of your short payment, but you have. So for example, today is July. In the month of April, means around 2-3 months back, I have made a short payment. And I come to know this fact. My accountant comes and tells me, look sir, we have made a short payment in the month of April. I say, oh, is it so? Oh, that's bad. Let's go and pay the amount. So what I can do is, on my own ascertainment, I will calculate the amount of short payment and I will pay it along with interest, and after making the payment, I will inform the proper officer that look, I have made the payment. There was a short payment in some month, in some of the preceding months, and I have ascertained the amount and I have paid the amount. So this I will have to inform him. Now why to make this payment? That's a question. Good question. The question may come into your mind that if the officer doesn't know, that why should we go and pay the amount? It is to safeguard ourselves from penalty. Because if he catches us and he gives us the show cause notice, then he can charge the penalty. So to avoid penalty, what you can do is, you can pay the amount voluntarily. So this is a voluntary payment. You write down besides subsection 5, voluntary payment. Okay. So if we go and pay ourselves, we have to pay the tax plus interest, but no penalty. So you save yourself from penalty. Okay, then let's move ahead. Subsection 6 says, the proper officer on receipt of such information shall not serve any notice under subsection 1, or as the case may be statement under 3, in respect of the tax so paid, or any penalty payable under the provisions of this act or rules made thereunder. See, he will not issue notice for the tax or penalty, means no penalty will be charged. But where the proper officer is of the opinion, now see, now this is a very interesting lesson to learn, that whenever you speak the truth, speak whole truth. This is a very important lesson, okay, for life. Whenever you speak truth, speak whole truth. So there was a short payment in the month of April of 20 lakh rupees. Okay, there was a total short payment of 20 lakh rupees. Now I want to confess, I am saying the truth, then I should speak the whole truth. I should pay the whole 20 lakhs plus interest. But if I don't do that, if I say that look, we'll do one thing, let's pay up at least 5 lakhs. Let's pay up 5 lakhs and conceal the remaining 15 lakhs. So I go and pay 5 lakhs along with interest and inform the officer. Now what the officer will do? Anyways, he was not knowing this fact that there was a short payment. We went and paid 5 lakhs and we woke him up. He was sleeping, we woke him up. Now what he'll do, he'll say, okay, you have made a short payment of 5 lakhs. How, let me know. Tell me. And we'll tell him that this is the short payment. He says, okay, bring the books, brings record. And then he will go into the record and find out 15 lakh. If that happens, then he will issue us notice for that 15 lakhs also. So he will not issue us notice for that 5 lakhs which we have paid, but he will issue notice for the balance 15 lakh and recover the tax and interest and penalty. So therefore, remember that if there is a short payment of 20, go and pay full amount so that he doesn't come to know that there is something more hidden into it. Okay, pay up the full. If you pay part, then he will come to know of the balance part, and for that he can give you the notice. Or don't go at all. Don't go. If you don't go, he was anyway sleeping. He was not knowing that there was a short payment of 20 lakh. He would have done nothing. So either don't go, or if you are going, then say the full truth. Pay the full amount which was not paid earlier. Okay. So see, it is given here. Where the proper officer is of the opinion that the amount paid under subsection 5, that is voluntary payment, falls short of the amount actually payable, he shall proceed to issue notice under subsection 1 in respect of such amount which falls short of the amount actually payable. Then, moving ahead, so that was the voluntary payment. 3 sections involved there, 5, 6, 7. Then it says, where any person chargeable with tax under subsection 1 or 3, that is the statement, means now the notice is sent. Show cause notice is sent. Okay, show cause notice is sent. Now, once we receive the show cause notice, then we get another chance. Another chance to pay up the amount within 30 days. The amount that he has mentioned in the notice. That why you should not pay 20 lakhs. The show cause notice mentions the amount. So we can pay up that amount within 30 days of receipt of the show cause notice. And if we do that, then what happens? If we do that, then a very interesting thing happens, and that is that we pay up the amount along with interest. Penalty is saved again. You again save penalty. You don't have to pay penalty because you have accepted the amount and you are paying it along with interest. So penalty saved, number 1. Number 2, proceedings are deemed to be completed. Proceedings are deemed to be finished. Means no investigation, no inquiry, nothing will take place. Because you know that if investigation starts, then the amount is going to increase. The 20 lakh show cause notice is not the real short payment. The short payment is much more than that. Officer has come to know of a particular amount and he has given us notice. So it's better you pay up the amount and silence him. If you don't do that, if you contest and you don't pay up and you say that no, if you want to argue the matter, then no, I don't accept this short payment, let's argue the case, then he will investigate the whole thing, and if he investigates the whole thing, then those other amounts will also crop up. And then he will issue this statement and take up more matters, and we'll end up paying 50, 60, 70 lakhs. So what's the better option? Pay up. Pay up. If you know that he has caught only the tip of the iceberg and the real short payment was much more than that, pay up. Pay up and silence him. So how to do that? Let's see. 8 says that where the person chargeable with tax under subsection 1 or 3, 1 means the original notice, 3 means the statement, pays this said tax along with interest payable under section 50 within 30 days of issue of show cause notice. Within 30 days of issue of show cause notice, then no penalty shall be payable. First point, no penalty. So you save penalty, number 1. Number 2, all proceedings in respect of the said notice shall be deemed to be concluded. All the proceedings are deemed to be concluded. The case will be closed. File will be kept in the locker. So you want this advantage? Pay up, pay up, pay up the amount along with interest. Then the proper officer shall, after considering the representation. So now let's move ahead. If you don't pay, if you're contesting the case, why should I pay? I think I have not done any short payment. I have paid the full tax. So I'll contest. So if you contest the notice, then you have to file your reply to the show cause notice. And when you will file the reply, then the case will come up for adjudication, that is assessment. So let's go to 9. The proper officer shall, after considering the representation, means our reply, if any made by the person chargeable with tax, determine the amount of tax, interest and penalty. So now we will determine. And penalty will be 10% of the tax or 10,000 rupees, whichever is higher. This is the penalty amount. It's quite low because it's error case. So 10% of tax is the penalty, or 10,000 rupees, whichever is higher. So if your tax recovery comes to say 80,000, 10% of 80,000 will be only 8,000. So penalty will be 8,000 or 10,000, whichever is higher, means 10,000. Or if the tax recovery is of 80 lakhs, then 10% penalty will be 8 lakh rupees. So tax, interest and penalty. And penalty will be 10% of tax or 10,000 rupees, whichever is higher. So this will be determined and the order will be issued. Issue an order. Then the time limit for issue of order is given under subsection 10. The proper officer shall issue the order under subsection 9 within 3 years from the due date of furnishing the annual return for the financial year to which the tax not paid or short paid or input tax credit wrongly availed or utilized relates to, or within 3 years from the date of erroneous refund. So this is the time within which the adjudication has to be completed, the order has to be passed. 3 years. Let me explain how this 3 years is calculated, okay? So 3 years will be calculated like this. If this was the financial year in which there was a short payment somewhere in between, short payment or non-payment, or in which you have claimed, means availed, wrong ITC or utilized wrongly the ITC. So this is the financial year in which this error has happened. Okay. What is the due date for filing the annual return? 31st of December, right? 31st December following the financial year. So this is March. Say if this is 17-18, so this is March 18, so this will be 31st December 18, right? So for recovery of any of these short payments during this financial year, the time limit will be 3 years. 3 years from this due date. So 3 years will come on, if this is 31st December 18, then it will be 3 years will come 31st December 18, 19, 20, 21. So the order can be passed by 31st December 21. Okay, the order, the final order, the completion of adjudication has to be done by 31st December 21 for recovery of these amounts along with interest and penalty. And if this is the time for passing the order, maximum time when the order is to be passed, the show cause notice should be issued at least 3 months before, right? Remember? So the show cause notice has to be issued at least 3 months before the date of the order. The gap should be minimum 3 months. Means the show cause notice has to be issued 3 months before. Means December, November, October. You leave these 3 months, so it will be by 30th September. September is 30, yes, 30th September 18. So show cause notice should be issued by 30th September 18, minimum, not beyond that, and the order has to be passed by 31st December 21. Oh, sorry. September 18 नहीं, sorry. September 21. It happens. Small mistakes. Okay, so take it down. So this is case of short payment, non-payment, or wrong availment or utilization of ITC. And in case of erroneous refund, it is the year in which the refund is taken. So if this is the financial year in which refund was granted, okay. So see what it says. 3 years from the date of erroneous refund. In case of refund, it is 3 years from the date of erroneous refund. Sorry. So if the refund was granted here, then 3 years will start from the date of grant of refund. So suppose if the refund is granted on, say, 30th of September 22, 3 years will be counted from there. So 30th September 25. And the notice period will be 3 months before that. Show cause notice has to be issued 3 months before. Means by, if this is September to September, August, July you leave. So this will be 31st of June, no, 30th of June 2025. Will be the time limit for issuing show cause notice. Means show cause notice has to be issued before this date, not after this date. Okay. Pause and take it down. Very good. Then the last is subsection 11. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 6 or 8, penalty under subsection 9 shall be payable where any amount of self-assessed tax or any amount collected as tax has not been paid within a period of 30 days from the due date of payment of tax. So it says that if you have already collected the amount from the customer but not paid to the government, then in that case penalty has to be charged, whether you pay it voluntarily or otherwise. Okay, what it says, shall be payable. Not now subsection 6 and 8 said that you are not liable to penalty, but here it says that penalty under subsection 9 shall be payable. This penalty that we have seen, 10% of tax or 10,000 rupees, whichever is higher, shall be payable where any amount of self-assessed tax or amount collected as tax has not been paid within the period of 30 days. Self-assessed means we have already shown it in the return. Self-assessment was done. We have shown it in the return, but we had not paid it before the due date. Then penalty is compulsory. Or it was collected from the customer, collected as tax. We have already collected it from the buyer and still not paid it to the government. Then the penalty has to be charged. Within 30 days of the due date of payment of such tax. So if not paid within 30 days from the due date of payment of such tax, means if the period is, say, July 2019. July 2019 was the month in which we collected tax. The due date of payment is 20th of August. Right? The return filing date is the due date for payment of tax. So 20th of August. So I have already collected tax from the customers and I am not paying it till 20th of August. No problem. You can pay it within next 30 days. You have got more 30 days to pay. If you pay within next 30 days, you have to pay interest, but not penalty. But if you don't pay even by the 30th day and you pay it later on, then you are liable for penalty as well. So if you pay the tax after 30 days of the due date, then you will be liable for penalty. Penalty applicable. Okay. And suppose it was a case of non-collection of tax. I haven't collected it from the customer. I have only put the goods for sale. I have sold the goods. I thought that it was not taxable. Later on I find that, oh, it was taxable. I should have paid tax. So then fine. Then you can pay the tax and interest, but no penalty. If you do it voluntarily. Voluntarily before the officer comes to know, or after issue of show cause notice within 30 days. Understood? So that was 73. Simple. Then let's come to 74. Now 74 you can understand very easily, because mostly the logic will remain same. Voluntary payment, then after show cause notice you can pay within 30 days. All those points will remain same. Only thing is that the fundamental difference is that this short payment was on account of fraud. You have done it purposefully. So then what happens? Let's see. So where it appears to the proper officer that any tax has not been paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, or the input tax credit has been wrongly availed or utilized, that part remains the same. Now the change: by reason of fraud or any willful misstatement. Fraud means intentionally with the intention of tax evasion. That is called as fraud. Or willful misstatement, you have suppressed the facts, you have misstated the facts, or suppressed the facts, suppression of facts, to evade tax. Your intention is to evade tax. Misstatements means wrong statements. Suppression means keeping silent, not disclosing the important facts. You do it with intention of tax evasion. Okay? Then he shall serve a notice on the person chargeable with tax which has not been paid or short paid. So that remains the same. Requiring him to show cause. So again it is a show cause notice as to why he should not pay the amount. Amount has to be mentioned. Very important point. Specified in the notice, along with interest payable under section 50 and penalty. But here penalty is different. The amount of penalty is different. Penalty equivalent to the tax specified in the notice. So penalty will be 100% of tax. So in error omission case it was 10% of tax or 10,000, whichever is higher. Here it is 100% of tax. Penalty will be equal to tax. So he will tell you, he will give you the notice showing, specifying that the amount of short payment of tax is say 23 lakhs. So you pay 23 lakhs plus interest plus penalty of 23 lakhs. Right? Then the proper officer shall issue the notice under 1 at least 6 months prior to the time limit under section 10 for issuance of order. So in case of 73 it was 3 months, here it is 6 months. That difference you have to note. The logic remains the same, that 6 months is the time allowed for investigation purpose, and this is a fraud case, so you will need more time for investigation. Therefore 6 months. 6 months gap should be there. Then where a notice has been issued under for the period under 1, the proper officer may serve a statement containing the details of tax not paid or short paid or erroneously refunded or input tax credit wrongly availed or utilized for such periods other than covered under 1 on the person chargeable with tax. So this is again the same point, the statement for the further periods. Okay. Then service of statement under subsection 3 shall be deemed to be service of notice under subsection 1 of 73. 73 means normal case. So what this means is, okay, I'll read it first. Subject to the condition that the grounds relied upon in the said statement, except the grounds of fraud, except the fraud or any willful misstatement or suppression of facts to evade tax for periods other than those covered under 1, are the same as mentioned in the earlier notice. Now this is a very interesting point. You have to understand this point. What it means is that here for the months of April to June, you have done some fraud. There is a fraud case. Okay. So there, one reason is fraud, and there may be other reasons also. It is not necessary that all the reasons are fraud. So there can be fraud, and then there can be some normal error omission also. So there is a reason of fraud also, and some error case also. There are two cases involved together. There is fraud case as well as error case. So notice is given, show cause notice is served for the month of April and June. April, May, June. Show cause notice is given. Then the officer finds that for the month of July and August also there has been some short payment. Short payment on account of fraud also and error also. Both of them. Both of them are there in the month of July and August also. Then what he can do is, he can issue a statement. But now remember, understand this very important point. The statement that can be issued only for error case. So for the error case where the grounds are same in the original notice and this, if the grounds are same for this and this, then he can issue a statement covering the other period as well. But if fraud is there, if it is by reason of fraud, then statement cannot be issued. Statement will not work. So for this, he has to issue a separate show cause notice. So if fraud is found in other months as well, even if the grounds are same, a separate show cause notice is required to be issued. It will not be covered by the statement. Statement will work only if the reason is any reason other than fraud. Because they have mentioned 73, not 74. Right? So now come back and read. Now you'll understand. What it says, the service of statement under subsection 3 shall be deemed to be service of notice. Under subsection 1 of 73, it will be deemed to be notice of 73, means which case? Non-fraud case. Right? And not fraud case. Subject to condition that the grounds relied upon in the said statement. So grounds means which grounds? Not fraud grounds. Non-fraud grounds. Therefore it is given except the grounds. So you cannot rely on fraud ground. This will be error grounds, not fraud. So grounds relied upon in the said statement except the grounds of fraud or any willful misstatement, suppression of facts, evade tax. They have excluded this part. For periods other than those covered under 1 are the same as are mentioned in the earlier notice. Means which grounds are same? The non-fraud grounds. Non-fraud grounds are the same. So that means that statement can be issued for which purpose? Non-fraud purpose. But if the fraud is existing in other months, then statement cannot be issued. Then it has to be dealt with by another show cause notice. Understood? Very good. Then let's see further. Then it says that the person chargeable with tax may, before service of notice. So again, subsection 5 is the same. Voluntary surrender. Before the officer comes to know that you have done fraud, what you can do is you can accept your fraud, go to the officer and say that, look, please, I am paying the tax along with interest and penalty. Please accept my case. I am very sorry for the fraud that I have done. So in that case, you have to pay penalty only at the rate of 15% of such tax. So see what it says. The person chargeable with tax may, before service of notice, under subsection 1, before notice, pay the amount of tax along with interest. Interest to you have to pay 18% per annum full, and 15% penalty at the rate of 15% of the tax on the basis of own ascertainment. You do your own ascertainment and then pay up the amount. By doing so, what happens is, and then you inform the proper officer in writing. Then the proper officer, on receipt of the information, shall not serve any notice under 1 in respect of the tax so paid and any penalty. Okay. But where the officer is of the opinion that the amount paid under subsection 5 falls short of the amount actually payable, again the same logic. So 5, 6, 7 are to be read together. That if you pay the amount but you don't pay the full amount, as I told you earlier in section 73, if you accept the truth, accept full truth, not half truth. So if you want to pay, either pay full or don't pay at all. Don't wake him up. He was anyway sleeping. He was not aware of the fraud, so don't wake him up by paying some amount. So that's how it happens here, that if you pay half of the amount and he comes to know that there is still more recoverable, then he will issue the show cause notice. So he shall proceed to issue the notice under subsection 1 for the amount which falls short. Okay, and where the person chargeable with tax under 1 pays the tax. Okay, so that is 5, 6, 7 together. Then 8. Now the show cause notice is given. Okay, after you receive the show cause notice, what you can do is you can agree and pay. So it says pays the said tax along with interest under section 50 and penalty at the rate of 25% of such tax. Now the penalty is slightly up. If you go voluntarily, penalty is 15%. But if the show cause notice is issued and then you pay voluntarily, after the show cause notice is given, then the penalty will be 25%. So tax plus interest plus 25% you have to pay within 30 days. And if you do so, then all proceedings are deemed to have been concluded. All proceedings are deemed to have been concluded. Means the case will be closed and the file will be kept in the locker. So this advantage is there. If you know that this show cause notice covers only the tip of the iceberg, the real fraud is much more than that, then you can pay up the amount as demanded in full plus interest plus penalty at 25%, and you will save the real iceberg. Then comes the contention case. Means if you don't agree with the show cause notice, then you contest. If you contest, then let's see what happens. So subsection 9 says, the officer shall, after considering the representation, if any, made by the person chargeable with tax, determine the amount of tax, interest and penalty. But here the penalty will now be full 100%. Normal penalty is 100% of tax. And the proper officer shall issue the order under 9 within a period of 5 years from the due date of furnishing the annual return for the financial year to which the tax not paid or short paid or credit wrongly taken relates, or 5 years from the date of erroneous refund. So the time limit is similar to 73, except that here it is 5 years instead of 3 years. So for normal error case it was 3 years, here it is 5 years. So the chart that we had made, you can take out the same chart. So this will remain the same, except that the 3 years will become 5 years. So you can redraw this whole chart, except that this 3 years period will become 5 years. So this 3 will become 5. So this will become 31st of December. 18 was 31st December 18 was the due date for filing the annual return. So now it is 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So this will be 31st of December 23. And this will also become 23. And this will also become 5 years. So if it is 30th September 22, then 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So this 25 will become 27. So both these points you can take down. Pause the lecture and take down. fraud case. Section 74. Sorry. The time limit for show cause notice will be 6 months. Make it 6 months. Please correct it. The show cause notice time will be 6 months before the time for passing the order. So if this is the date for passing the order, show cause notice has to be issued at least 6 months before. And here also at least 6 months before. Okay. Great. Then coming back, 11 says that where any person served with an order under 9 pays the tax along with interest payable thereon under section 50 and penalty at the rate of 50% of the tax within 30 days of communication of the order, all proceedings in respect of the said notice shall be deemed to be concluded. Further advantage is given to fraudulent people. That now, see, there are 4 rates of penalty now. If you voluntarily pay before the issue of show cause notice, then penalty will be 15%. 15. If show cause notice is given and then you pay within 30 days, then the penalty will be 25%. If you don't pay and you contest, the final order comes. When the final order comes, you pay the amount of tax along with interest and penalty within 30 days. You have to pay penalty at 50%. Only 50% penalty. If you pay within 30 days. And if you don't pay even within 30 days of the final order, then the penalty will be 100%. Okay? Interesting. So you can make a line diagram for this. Let's make a line diagram. How? That this is the show cause notice, this is the final order. 30 days, 30 days. So first was voluntary payment. So if you make a voluntary payment before the show cause notice, even before the show cause notice is given, then penalty will be 15%. If you pay within these 30 days, within this 30 days period, the tax along with interest and penalty, then penalty would be 25%. If you don't pay, you contest. If you contest, then final order will come. From the date of final order, if you pay within 30 days, then penalty will be 50%. Pay tax. So if you pay tax, then 25% penalty and now 50% penalty. And if you pay later on, that is after 30 days, then the penalty would be 100%. Then there will be 100% penalty. Section 74. Penalty payable. Got it? Great. Then there is explanation. For the purpose of section 73 and this section, so explanation is common to both 73 and 74. The expression all proceedings in respect of the said notice shall not include proceedings under 132. So it says that all proceedings are deemed to have been completed. So that will not include 132. 132 will continue. We'll see what is 132 later on. And where the notice under the same proceeding is issued to the main person liable to pay tax and some other persons, and such proceedings against the main person have been concluded. If the original notice is for the main person and other persons, okay, main and other persons, and the proceedings under proceeding against the main person have been concluded under 73 or 74, the proceedings against all the persons liable to pay penalty under section 122, 125, 129 and 130 are deemed to be concluded as well. So if the main person is forgotten and forgiven, then other persons are also deemed to have been forgiven and forgotten. So this is a technical explanation. You will not understand these sections. We will see them in penalty provisions later on. And explanation 2 says that for the purpose of this act, the expression suppression shall mean non-declaration of facts or information which is taxable, which a taxable person is required to declare in the return, statement, report or any other document furnished under this act or the rules made thereunder, or failure to furnish any information on being asked for in writing by the proper officer. We have seen that section 74 deals with suppression of facts. So what do you mean by suppression? So suppression means non-declaration of facts as required under the various documents, or non-furnishing of information when called upon by the officer to do so. So that will be called as suppression. So those were the two main sections, 73 and 74, for recovery of tax. Then 75 is there, general provision, where the service of notice or issuance of order is stayed by any order of a court or tribunal, the period of such stay shall be excluded from computing the period under 73 or 74. So the period that we have seen, 3 years and 5 years as the case may be. So if there was a stay in between, stay of the court on the officer, stay means stop, don't act. So if he is not acting, then the time is going now. So the government says, don't worry, the time doesn't go. Stay period is not to be counted in the limitation period. Means that much extension will be granted. Secondly, where any appellate authority or appellate tribunal or court concludes that the notice issued under subsection 1 of 74 is not sustainable for the reason, not sustainable means the notice is wrong, for reason that the charges of fraud or willful misstatement or suppression of facts to evade tax have not been established. Not been established means cannot be proved against the person to whom the notice was issued. The proper officer shall determine the tax payable by such person, deeming as if the notice were issued under 73. Now this is a very interesting point. This means there are two sisters. Let's take an example. There are two sisters, Alka and Smita. Alka and Smita. Now somebody, as it happens, matrimonial proposal has come to your home. You are Mr. Akash, and a proposal has come. Proposal has come for Alka from that family. Now you know that family very well, and actually you like Smita. Since long you have been liking her, Smita. So when somebody came to your home and said that Kapoor Khandan se rishta aaya hai, a proposal has come from Kapoor Khandan, you were happy. You were so happy that you didn't listen to anything and you just ran and called your friends and all that, oh, my job is done. So you were very happy, but later on in the evening your mother told that, have you met Alka? So you were surprised. Why she is asking for Alka? You said, yeah, I know her, she is going to be my Sali, so it's fine. So mom says, no, not Sali. The proposal has come for Alka. And you say, is it so? No, no, no. How can this happen? I like Smita. I cannot marry Alka. But anyways, Kapoor family has a lot of money. They are very rich. So now what you do is, you make a counter proposal. Now listen carefully. You make a counter proposal. You send the proposal back to Kapoor family that, look, we are interested in Smita. Now two things can happen. Either Kapoor Khandan accepts your proposal and gives you the hand of Smita. If that happens, then very good. You get what you want. You get the girl and the money both. This is just an example. Huh? But if they reject your proposal, then you will lose the girl as well as money. So you want to safeguard yourself. So while making that counter proposal, what you will say, that look, my first preference is Smita. But if the appellate tribunal, means your family, doesn't accept my proposal, then no problem. No problem. The earlier proposal that you had given will be accepted by me, so I am ready to marry Alka as well. It should not happen now that both the things go out of your hand. At least some should remain. Now that example fits here. How? 73 is error case, 74 is fraud case. The officer issues a notice under 74. Okay, he issues a notice under 74 saying that you have done fraud and why you should not pay tax plus interest plus penalty. So he gives a notice under 74. Okay, he assesses the tax, but we are not accepting it. So we went into appeal. After the order is passed, we went into appeal. In appeal, we tell the court that we have not done any fraud. We accept that there was a short levy. We accept that we have paid short. But it is not a fraud. If it is not a fraud, then the notice itself is invalid. And if the notice, show cause notice itself is invalid, the order is also invalid. It's important. If the show cause notice is invalid, the order also becomes invalid. Means the total recovery itself is invalid. So we'll win the case. If we win the case, the whole amount will be refunded to us. But there was a short payment now. So if not fraud, it was error. If not fraud, at least it was an error. But notice was not sent under 73, notice was sent under 74. So we win the case, we get back the money and the officer loses everything. And now if he wants to pursue a matter under 73, that 3 years time limit has gone. So he cannot go. He cannot go under 73 because 3 years have gone. So he will lose on both ends. So therefore what the government has written here, this is that counter proposal. They have said that okay, original order was under 74. If the assessee goes into appeal and the appellate authority or the tribunal or the court decides, concludes that the fraud is not established, fraud is not proved, and therefore this notice of 74 is invalid, the order of 74 is invalid, then what the law says, it shall be deemed that the notice was sent under 73. And as it is deemed that it is sent under 73, at least it will hold good for tax and interest amount at least. Okay, under 73 the penalty cannot be levied, but at least the tax and interest can be recovered. So therefore this deeming fiction, very important deeming fiction. So what it says, the proper officer shall determine the tax payable by such person, deeming as if the notice were issued under section 73. So if it is under 73, error case, assessee says that it is not fraud, so we'll say okay, at least the error is there now. If not fraud, it is error. So it is deemed that notice is given under 73 and therefore we can recover the amount of tax and interest. But only for the last 3 years, not 5 years, but at least for 3 years. Prior to sending of notice, you can recover the amount of the last 3 years. Then, Where any order is required to be issued in pursuance of direction of the appellate authority or tribunal or court, such order shall be issued within 2 years from the date of communication of the direction. Now this is court. What happens here is that the matter goes to the court, and court asks the authority to proceed in a particular manner. So this is on direction of the appellate authority or the tribunal. So if the appellate authority or the tribunal has directed the officer to pass an order, then that order has to be passed within 2 years. So that's a simple point. And an opportunity of being heard shall be granted where a request is received in writing from the person chargeable with tax or penalty, or where an adverse decision is contemplated against such person. Obviously, opportunity has to be given. Then the proper officer shall, if sufficient causes shown by the person chargeable with tax, grant time to the said person and adjourn the hearing for reasons to be recorded in writing. Adjournments can also take place. So opportunity of being heard means in the duration of the proceeding. When you are contesting the case, you are replying the notice, and when you file a reply, opportunity of being heard can be granted if you ask for. Otherwise it can be sorted out on paper itself, on the paper reply. But if you seek for personal hearing, it can be granted. That is the first point. Secondly, adjournments can be asked for. So you can ask for adjournment of the case. As in Hindi movies it is called as tarikh pe tarikh. So you can ask for adjournments, but provided that no such adjournment shall be granted for more than 3 times to a person during the proceedings. Maximum time you can ask for adjournment is 3 times, not more than that. So you will get 3 adjournments, that's it. Then the proper officer in his orders shall set out the relevant facts and the basis of the decision. This is called a speaking order. Speaking order means the facts and the basis, the reason of the decision should be mentioned in the order, whether 73 or 74 as the case may be. This section applies to both 73 and 74. Then amount of tax, interest, penalty demanded in the order shall not be in excess of the amount specified in the notice, that is show cause notice. Hence I told you in the beginning itself that the amount mentioned in show cause notice is very important. Because demand notice, the order is final order, so final order cannot be more than the amount specified in show cause notice. If the show cause notice mentioned 20 lakh, final order cannot go beyond that. And no demand shall be confirmed on the grounds other than the grounds specified in the notice. Second important point. The grounds which were mentioned in show cause notice should be the same as in the final order. Final order cannot be passed on separate grounds, on different grounds. Okay. Then where the appellate authority or the tribunal or the court modifies the amount of tax determined by the officer, the amount of interest and penalty shall be modified accordingly. Obviously. Then the interest on the tax, short paid or not paid, shall be payable whether or not specified in the order determining the tax liability. Order only mentions the tax basically. Sometimes it also mentions the interest. But even if the interest is not mentioned, it has to be paid. Interest is mandatory. So whether it is mentioned in the order or not, it has to be paid. Then the adjudication proceeding shall be deemed to be concluded if the order is not issued within 3 years as specified under subsection 10 of 73 or 5 years under 74. If the time lapses, the proceedings come to an end. Then thereafter the order cannot be passed. And an issue on which the appellate authority or the tribunal or the high court has given its decision, which is prejudicial to the interest of revenue in some other proceedings, and an appeal to the appellate tribunal or the high court or supreme court against such decision or the appellate authority or the tribunal or high court is pending, means the issue is pending in the next higher authority. The period spent between the date of the decision of the appellate authority and that of the tribunal, or the tribunal and the high court, or the date of passing of the judgment by high court and that of supreme court, shall be excluded in computing the period under 10 of 73 or 10 of 74 where proceedings are initiated by way of issue of show cause notice under the said sections. Understood anything? No? Okay, let me tell you. What this means is, this is called as shortening of the justice period. Now the officer has given us a show cause notice on some ground. He says that because of this ground there is a short payment. Okay, fine. Now what has happened is that when the show cause notice is given and when the assessment comes up, he will apply his mind and determine whether there is a short payment or not. He will interpret the law and apply it and decide the case. But as you know that if old cases have already been decided on the same ground, then those rulings will apply here. It will bind the assessing officer. So what has happened is that this same ground has been decided by the appellate authority, the first appellate authority. If it is already decided by appellate authority and the decision is there, then this decision will bind the assessing officer here in this show cause notice, right? So the assessing officer will have to apply this order and pass the judgment in my case also. But the point is that this decision, which has been decided by appellate authority, is under appeal. Means it has been appealed against and it is yet to be decided by the next authority. So it is under appeal. So if the original order is of appellate authority, it will be under appeal with whom? The appellate tribunal. Or if the original order is of the appellate tribunal, then it is under appeal with the High Court. And if the order is of the High Court, it is under appeal with Supreme Court. So it is under appeal. It is still under appeal. So order has come, but it is under appeal. Further appeal is there. And this appeal is not yet decided. So what the officer will do here, he will hold this matter. He will hold this matter in my case till the time it is decided. And once it is decided, then he can apply this decision to my case and pass the order. So the time which is taken here by these authorities in deciding this matter will be excluded in my case, because my case is pending and the decision in my case depends upon the decision in this case. So the time limit which is applicable to me under 73 or 74 will be postponed. This time will be excluded there. Excluded means extended. So this time period will be added to my time for completing the assessment. Interesting now? Then notwithstanding anything contained in 72 or 74 where any amount of self-assessed tax in accordance with the return furnished under 39 remains unpaid, either wholly or partly, or any amount of interest payable on such tax remains unpaid, the same shall be recovered under the provisions of section 79. 79 is the recovery proceeding that we'll see in the next lecture, where your assets can be sold off and tax can be recovered. So if we have filed a return, we have shown the tax payable, but still we haven't paid, or we haven't paid the interest, then to recover that tax or the interest which is already shown, you will not follow 73 and 74, you will follow 79. So here you write, instead of 73 and 74, follow 79, means direct recovery. 73 is like proving the case first. 79 is direct recovery. So 79 will apply here. And lastly it says that where any penalty is imposed under 73 or 74, no penalty for the same act or omission shall be imposed on the same person under any other provisions of this act. So once this penalty is imposed here, like we have seen, 10%, 15%, 25%, 50%, 100%, then no other penalty will be levied under any other provision of this act. Simple. Wow. So those were the three sections, 73, 74, and 75 gives the common provisions for these two sections. So these were the recovery proceedings, and in the next lecture then we'll continue with section 76.